Welcome. So let's make sure we have what we need for our practice. We're going to do a practice that's honoring Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day here in the UK. I know it's not everywhere in the world, but I thought I would use this opportunity to honor the matrilineal ancestors, honor those who've come before us. And so I wanted to really make this practice a relationship of connection. And it may be that our ancestors are unknown to us, in which case I invite you to use this practice to connect to the earth, the Mother Earth. And so depending on what our relationship was with our mother's mother, and so on, this may be a challenging practice. For others, this may be a practice which feels very honoring and joyful. So you imbue this practice with the emotions that shape your relationship or unrelationship, perhaps. Thinking about how we can bring completion and fullness to this connection we have with those who have given birth to us and so on, and those with whom we have formed relationship and perhaps who are surrogate mothers or models in our life, our aunties, our sisters, our friends. We're going to come right at the start, we're going to come into our first seat. And so instead of sitting cross-legged there, I invite you to get your cushion, large cushions or pillows, or a couple of blankets, so you have various options. So if you're using blankets, you could roll up, you could have a blanket there, it's flat on the earth, and then a rolled up blanket there. And we're going to sit with our knees and shins on the earth. So depending on how high or low your blanket is, so I sort of roll this up so it sort of imitates a bolster. Obviously, if you have a large pillow or bolster, you can sit with that here as well. So that will bring you higher up. I've lined my mat with a blanket here so that my inside of my ankles and my feet are resting on the blanket. And sit tall here. If I turn sideways, you can see how it feels for my feet. So my feet are on the blanket. You can obviously spread out your blanket as wide as you need. So we're cushioning the earth. So we're comfortable and we're sitting on a bolster, a couple of pillows or some rolled up blankets. So we have the support here. Lengthen your spine, lift your crown. And I invite you to bring your little finger and thumb to touch. Closing your eyes, softening your gaze. Take a couple of moments here connecting with your breath. Connecting with the ancestors on your matrilineal side, the mother's side, the mother's line. And explore what that relationship might be for you. Whether it's a painful memory, perhaps it's a relationship of loss and separation. Perhaps it's a complex relationship in which there's joy and pain. But this is the nature of your relationship. Closing your eyes. And as you sit here, I'm going to share a poem by Rupi Kaur. And as you listen, connect with your breath. Connect with the sense of being here in this present moment. What if there isn't enough time to give her what she deserves? Do you think if I begged the sky hard enough, my mother's soul would return to me as my daughter, so I can give her the comfort she gave me my whole life? Do you think if I begged the sky hard enough, my mother's soul would return to me? Allow the expansiveness of the sky to fill you here. And with your hands, let's bring them into Anjali Mudra at the heart. So tips of the fingers pressed together, the palms slightly cupped. Inhale fully to open by chanting Om 3 times. And our mantra for our mother's line, the matrilineal heritage of all of our grandmothers, great-grandmothers, and so on, back in time, until we lose memory, until we lose connection, and then return to that connection between the earth and yourself. Inhale fully. Om. 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 Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. I honor and show gratitude to the mother's ancestors, to the mother's line, to the heritage of the matrilineal. Open your eyes, releasing your hands. Let's start with some gentle tapping, bringing your peace fingers, your index and middle together. So let's start here at the outer corner of the eye, underneath the eye. Swap to the other side, the outer corner of that eye, underneath the eye. Bring it, the fingers to tap above our lip. And here, perhaps you remember your ancestors underneath the lip, tapping there. I honor and remember the ancestors of the matrilineal. Now let's come down to our collarbones, and here you can use 4 fingertips. I am grateful for all those who have come before me. Let's come to the sternum, the breastplate here. Underneath the armpit, so you can do one side first, then the other side. And we're going to travel down the inside of the arm. And you can come into a gentle fist here, all the way down to the wrist and tap there for a little while. Let's tap the outside edge of the hand here on my left side, the inside of the little finger. Turn it around, let the outside of the little finger and all the way back up the outside of the arm. So we're connecting here with the heart meridian and the small intestine. These are connected to joy, vitality. So all that sense of that we have inherited, the fact that we are here today because of the survival instinct of our mother's line, our ancestors. Now let's go over to the other side. So underneath the armpit, let's travel down the inside of the arm, gentle fist. The joy of life that we all experience in moments, even in the darkest of moments, outside of the hand, the karate chop, the little finger, inside of the little finger, outside of the little finger, then traveling up on the outside of the arm to the shoulder. And now let's go up to the top of the head, honoring, showing gratitude, being, remembering what has come before us. I like to do the back of my head, back of my neck, my jaw, my cheeks, around the ears, and then back to the heart space. Take a moment here. We're working with the heart and small intestine meridian, but we're also bringing in the liver and the urinary bladder. We won't tap on the lower body just for the moment. Let's tuck our toes wherever we are. So tuck your toes in here so that we can do a toe tuck here. I'll turn to the side so you can see my toes tucked. So if we think about the gallbladder and the liver meridians, they are whole body meridians. So we focus on the legs and they also travel up the abdomen. So when we tuck our toes, we have the big toe, which is connected to the liver meridian, and the fourth toe, which is connected to the gallbladder. So here we're working with the grief or the pain that our ancestors may have experienced and the courage it took them to create us generation after generation, to have a presence here in this earth, to give opportunities to their next generation where they could, protecting them where they needed to. So all of our ancestors have a very different story depending on which side of the balance they were in life's opportunities and life suffering. So our ancestors would have had opportunities or suffering to a lesser or greater degree, and it depends entirely on the balance of their stories. Toe tuck here. Now we're going to come into an ankle stretch. So slide your cushions or bolster away and then untuck your toes and sit back towards your heels. Now place your hands, if you have your bolster or pillows in front, you can place your hands on there and lift your knees slightly. Or you can place your hands on the earth and lift your knees so that you have a gentle stretch of the inner ankle. So you don't need to lift your knees very far. Even just sitting here with our toes untucked and sitting on the inside of our feet, the tops of our feet and the inside of our ankles will be an ankle stretch compared to what we normally do. 3 breaths here. Let's release our ankle stretch. Remove your bolster or pillow for the moment. You don't need it just yet. Just put it out of the way until we need it. Tuck your toes. Place your hands on the earth. Lift your tailbone. Coming into mountain. Let's sway your hips just for a moment and walk our hands back towards our feet. We're coming into dangling or ragged doll pose. So here, let's have a bend in our knees. This could be a soft bend or a deep bend. Allow your crown to hang heavy so it's been drawn down towards the earth. You can take hold of opposite elbows and lift your tailbone here. Your abdomen is almost resting on your thighs. Allow the upper body to be really heavy here. The weight of the upper body is coming down towards the earth, holding on to opposite elbows. We'll be here for a minute and a half to 2 minutes. Closing your eyes. If this does not feel intense enough for you, you can always cross your hands behind your legs. Put your hands on the back of your knees. Take hold of opposite wrists there. So you can be in a different place here depending on how intense you want to have this experience. Six more breaths here. And from here, we're going to come into Yogi squat. So heel toe, your feet as wide as your mat. And bend into your knees so that you come down into a squat. Now, if it doesn't feel comfortable to squat here, remember you could always sit on something. You can roll up your blanket, and if your heels are lifting off the earth, you can place your blanket underneath your heels so that you have some padding there, and that will perhaps make this more accessible. So options are to sit on something, sit on the earth, sit on a low footstool, sit on your bolster or cushions, roll up a blanket and place it underneath your heels. So wherever you are, just bring your hands into Anjali. Anjali, this mudra where the tips of the fingers are together, but the palms are gently parted so it looks like a bud. This practice where we're focusing on the liver and the gallbladder also is connected to the season of spring. So we're right here, the daffodils and the crocuses, all of the spring flowers are out bursting from their buds. You can see the signs of spring everywhere. And spring itself is a joyful season, a season of creation, a season of new life, this ongoing creativity. So honoring the matrilineal, honoring the mothers and all of the mothers who've come before, whatever the complexity of our relationship with them. One more breath here in your yogi squat. Now we're going to go back into ragged doll pose, dangling. So release your mudra. Inhale, begin to lift up with your tailbone and heel toe your feet towards each other. You can still keep them hip distance wide and back into dangling. So taking hold of opposite elbows, allowing your crown to reach down towards the earth. And then you can always cross your arms behind your legs also if you wish. Deep bend or a soft bend in the knees. And gradually here, because we're doing this twice, what we're doing is we're allowing the fascia to soften, to surrender, so that we can drop into the deeper layers of the physical self and bring softening throughout the body. A mantra, if you ever wish to heal ancestral pain or suffering, or your relationship with your mother or your grandmother, going back in time. This mantra of Om Matribhyo Namaha Swaha is a healing mantra that also honors and shows gratitude. One more breath here in dangling, and we're going to move back into Yogi squat, Malasana. So release your elbows, heel toe your feet out as wide as your mat, bend into your knees, come back down. And again, you can take the variations that you wish to take. Your heels on a rolled up blanket. Perhaps you're sitting on something. Hands in Anjali. So for everyone, if we place our heels on the earth, on a blanket, it gives us more space often. Your elbows on the inside of your thighs. So the liver meridian runs from the sort of rib parallel to where your pecs are, all the way down your abdomen, through the groin and down the inside of the leg to the big toe. So you can see how here in this pose, we're really working on the liver meridian here. But also by connecting our little finger here in the Anjali Mudra, we're also working on our heart meridian. One more breath here in Malasana Yogi squat. From here, we won't be rising up again. So we're going to come to the earth. So bring your hands to the earth, bring your sit bones to the earth, and extend your legs long. And then you might want to windshield wiper them one way, then the other. You can bend your knees, rotate your ankles one way or the other. Wherever you need, you can hug your knees in. Just to counteract the effects of the yogi squat and the dangling. From here, we're going to come onto our front. We're going to move into Tadpole. So for Tadpole, let's line our mats with our blankets if we haven't already. So that you have some nice padding here. And let's come onto our knees again. So this time, let's have the big toes touch. Knees wide as your mat. And I'm going to put a blanket there as well. I've got lots of layers. And it's like child's pose. So Tadpole is like child's pose. Wide-legged child's pose. So extend your arms long and bring your eyebrows centered to rest on the earth. Big toes are touching. So remember the big toe for the liver meridian. With our legs folded, our knees bent, we're working on the meridians that run along. So the gallbladder runs along the outside, the liver runs along the inside. Our arms extended, palms on the earth. And again, stimulating the heart meridian and the small intestine meridian. So I'm particularly working with these two combinations today of the heart and small intestine, that pairing, and the pairing of the liver and the gallbladder. Because I want to connect with these very complex emotions that descend from one generation to the next. And often our most intimate family relationships are with our mothers. Those who have given birth to us, or those who have adopted us or fostered us. Those who have raised us as our guardians, our carers, those from whom we have received joyful caregiving, or from those we have had a lack of caregiving, and the effect that has had on us. So this complexity of the emotions of joy and vitality we might experience in those relationships with the mother, the grandmother, or the aunt, and so on, all the pain of that relationship, the anger, the loss, the grief that we've had experienced in that relationship, but also the courage that we have had to have in presence with that relationship. So when we have a day like Mother's Day, we often sort of do it in a way where we give flowers and chocolates. And for us, many of us this year, it may be particularly difficult. We may have lost our mothers, our grandmothers. The matriarchs in our family to the pandemic. We may not have been able to see them, connect with them physically. So that sense of loss may be more keenly felt and experienced. The fear that we may lose them. While you're here in Tadpole, I'm going to read you another poem by Rupi Kaur, who writes a lot about the relationship with mother. I struggle so deeply to understand how someone can pour the entire soul, blood, and energy into someone without wanting anything in return. I struggle so deeply to understand how someone can pour the entire soul, blood, and energy into someone without wanting anything in return. So for many of us, we may recognize the sacrifices made by the matriarchs in our families, in our ancestry. One more breath here in Tadpole. Let's lift your eyebrow center. And we're going to move into frog pose here. So frog pose is where we lift our hips so that our hips are above our knees. And we come onto our forearms. So your knees are still wide here. Your big toes can still stay connected. Or you can bring your knees out, your feet out, separate your heels, separate your feet, and allow your knees to slide away from each other so that you have more space here and you're opening up on the inside of your legs here. For your hands, I invite you. This dog is so gorgeous. Look at him. I invite you to either interlace your hands or to have them in Anjali Mudra. Anjali Mudra, the potentiality of this mudra. This mudra is like a seed or a bud in which there is potential, creative potential, which we often associate with the mother's line. So your variation of frog can be quite high with your feet together, or your legs can be very wide with your knees wide, wider than your mat, so that you're closer to the earth. If you want to bring your eyebrow center down towards the earth, you can do that, or you can stay lifted. I'm just going to create a little bit of space for myself. Breathe into the areas of the hip flexor where you feel tension or extension. This pose, particularly the frog pose or the half frog variation where your knees are closer together and your feet are touching, requires patience because it can feel very challenging, this pose. And so when we practice yin yoga or any yoga practice, what we're working with is observing the energies and the emotions and the thoughts that arise while we are in that practice. And how can we return to a place of equanimity with those emotions, with those feelings, through our breath, through our mantra, Om Mitra Bhyo Namaha Swaha. Om, universal sound, the universe. Mitra, the mother's line, Mitra, like mother, M-I-T-R-A, Mitra, mother. Bhyo, honoring. Namaha, I give gratitude. I offer, invoke Namaha, I invoke with honor, and Swaha, I give with love. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. One full breath here, and we're going to move from here. From here, we're going to move into pigeon and then sleeping swan. So bring your knees slightly in together, and you might want to sit back just for a moment just to release, or move backwards and forwards to release that tension on the inner hip flexor. We're going to bring the right knee forward first. So come onto your hands. And the right knee, bring that right knee in towards the right hand. And then roll onto your right hip so that you can adjust that right leg. And this left leg can be extended back, or you can have a bend in that. So you have more of a zigzag, more of a deer-shaped pose. And then roll onto your right shin. So you'll be in different places here. This left leg will have a bend in it, or it will be reaching back with the big toe. And if the right sit bones, that right hip feels a little too high, you can always place a cushion or a rolled up blanket underneath it so that it adds as extra support for you. So let's stay high here for a moment or two. Lifting your heart, lifting your gaze. Sinking into that right hip, that left leg is either at a nice angle for you or is extended behind for you. And remember the alternative, if this feels completely inaccessible, even with the left knee close to you. So remember checking with how you're feeling here. So this deer variation gives you more space. And remember, you can come onto your back and do figure of four with the right ankle crossed onto the left leg first. Now from here, we're going to come into sleeping swan. Just make sure I've got enough space here. Doesn't help when the dogs take over most of my mat. As you exhale, let's bring the eyebrow center down towards the earth. Now your hands can be crossed and your eyebrow center can rest on the back of your hands. You can use a little cushion for your eyebrow center. Your arms can also be extended long. So your variation of sleeping swan. Hands on top of each other, elbows as wide as the mat, eyebrow center resting on the backs of your hands, or the eyebrow center resting on the earth. So you can have if you have your eyebrow center resting on the earth, you can always place a cushion there, or you can extend your arms long. That right heel can be near the left hip, or that right shin can be parallel to the top of your mat, depending on how much space you have in your hips. We'll be here for 2 more minutes, so we're here for quite a while yet. Keep breathing into that right hip. Making sure that you are comfortable here as well. There may be challenge, but the challenge shouldn't create pain. or discomfort. There will be an edge you will met, but this edge will still be well within your comfort zone. We're not trying to push our body beyond its natural limits. Honoring our body, showing gratitude to our body. Ten more breaths here. And inhale to rise up. Tuck that left toe. And then reach back with the right knee. So you come up on both knees here. Sway your hips from left to right. So you're in table here. And we're going to come forward with our left knee towards our left wrist now. So inhale, bring your left knee in. And slide that right leg away. Or you can have a bend in that right knee. Roll onto your left sit bones, left hip, and adjust your left leg to the angle you wish to have it at. And then roll onto the front of your leg. Remember that right leg can be bent, in which case if it is angled, you're going to be sitting on your left hip probably. Make sure that left leg is exactly where you would like it. So let's start off in pigeon here. Or swan, alternate names here, but high variation here. Crown lifted, heart lifted. You are the person I look up to the most. When I am about to shatter, I think of your strength and harden. I think you are a magician. I want to fill the rest of your life with ease. You are the hero of heroes, the God of gods. You are the person I look up to the most. When I am about to shatter, I think of your strength and harden. I think you are a magician. I want to fill the rest of your life with ease. You are the hero of heroes, the God of gods. We're coming down to the earth in sleeping swan. So as you exhale, lower down towards the earth with your crown, your eyebrow center resting on the backs of your hands, or arms are extended and your eyebrow center is resting directly on the earth. Yogi's choice. Breathing into that left hip. Six more breaths here. Inhale to lift your gaze, Come up onto your hands and slightly tuck your toes, bend into your knees and take that left leg back. So both knees are now on the mat. Shake out your hips. Perhaps you circle in one way then the other. From here, we're going to step forward with our right foot to move into a dragon sequence here on the right and left. We won't be in dragon for too long, just to help us move through here. So step forward with the right foot. Keep that left knee on the earth. Now see how your left knee feels. You might want to pad it, so have several blankets underneath. I'm going to start off with our hands on the earth. So remember your hands here can be on the mat. Move out that right foot slightly so that right hand is on the inside of that right foot. You can have your hands on your bolster or a low footstool as well, so that your hands are lifted a little bit higher, which gives you more space in that right hip. So here we are in dragon on our hands for the moment. So we'll spend a minute in each variation. And then you stay with the variation that feels most accessible to you. Six more breaths here. Be sinking into that right hip. Inhaling, which will rise up, coming into high flying dragon. So shuffle that right foot in slightly, and then rise up and place your hands on your right knee, just on your thigh. And again, sink into this right hip. Crown is lifted, heart is open here. So this is high flying dragon. We'll be here for a minute. And connect with the sense of joy you feel. I think dragon can feel like a very joyful, vital pose. But you might need a sense of strength and courage to stay in it. So it can release feelings of joy and vitality, but we need to stay with it, with courage in this pose. 6 more breaths here. Now remember, your options are going to vary. So you can have your hands on the earth in low flying dragon, hands on your right thigh in high flying dragon, or you can come to the earth in winged dragon. So take your right foot slightly further out. And perhaps you roll onto the outer edge of your right foot, so you can see there. And so that right knee is coming out. You can stay on your hands, or you can come down onto your forearms. And if you're coming down onto your forearms, the forearms can rest directly on the earth or on your bolster or pillow. So having that right knee turning out, perhaps you're rolled onto the little toe side of your right foot. So the winged dragon variation is not necessarily what we're doing with our arms, but what we're doing with our right knee. We're sort of slightly fanning it out. So if I get up a little bit, you can see. So this would be high flying dragon, and right winged dragon is when you open up in that area. So again, we'll be here for a minute. So you can stay in variations we have already visited. 6 more breaths here. Now the option here is to move in to where we rotate the heart up to the sky. So if your hands are on the earth, leave your left hand on the earth and take the right hand and place it on the inside of your right knee. And then spiral your heart and gaze to look up to the sky. So if I turn around, you want to see how. So you're spiraling your gaze up towards the sky and your heart up towards the sky. So you're on your left hand, or you can be on your left forearm. Turning your heart and gaze up towards the sky. So this is the heart opening aspect of dragon. Remember, you can ease back. If this pushes you beyond your edge, you can ease back. We'll be here for a minute as well. Six more breaths here. Turn your gaze down towards the earth. Bring your right hand to the earth. Roll back onto the sole of your foot if you're on your outer edge. Take your sit bones back towards your left foot and then bring your right knee back. And maybe here again, you might want to shake out your hips. Circle them one way, then the other way. And we're going to step forward with the left foot. So again, we're going to move stage by stage through the different variations. So left hand on the inside of the left foot. Hands can be directly on the earth or on your bolster. Drop into that left hip. If it begins to feel too much to have your hands, your weight on, if you've got your palms flat on the earth and it begins, your wrists are beginning to feel sore, you can always fold in your fingers and create soft fists. And so you come onto your knuckles there. And that's a variation. So you can see here with my knuckles. So that can help if your wrists are beginning to feel it. Six more breaths here. This is low flying dragon. We'd inhale and rise up and bring our hands to the left side. And again, we sink into that left hip. We feel an extension on the right hip. Remember, if your foot begins to feel slippy, if you're using blankets, to remove your blanket. My blankets are quite good and they're not very slippery, so I can keep my balance on these blankets. But if your foot slides away, make sure that you've got your foot directly on your mat. Six more breaths here. And then let's stay here or come down towards the earth with our hands. And let's fan out the left knee. Perhaps you roll onto the outer edge of your left foot. You can stay with your hands on the earth, or you can come down towards the earth on your forearms, onto your pillow or bolster. Winged dragon variation. Really notice how this is becoming, you're beginning to require more and more courage and strength to stay here. Breathing in, connecting with your breath. And thinking about which of our poems so far have resonated with you. What if there isn't enough time to give her what she deserves? Do you think if I begged the sky hard enough, my mother's soul would return to me as my daughter, so I can give her the comfort she gave me my whole life? Perhaps I struggle so deeply to understand how someone can give their entire soul, blood, and energy into someone without wanting anything in return. Let's come into our heart opening variation here. So remember, you can bring your left hand to the inside of your left knee, really open up that knee. Right forearm can stay on the earth, or you can be on your right hand, spiral your heart, lift your gaze. So you're creating a little twist here. And you can feel the fire rising. Here, I can feel the fire rising, the heat building up. It's getting warmer. Feeling the warmth of the springtime, this energy, this vitality. I'm beginning to feel revitalized, re-energized. You are the person I look up to most. When I'm about to shatter, I think of your strength. And harden, I think you are a magician. I want to fill the rest of your life with ease. You are the hero of heroes, the God of gods. 6 more breaths here. One full breath. Let's turn our gaze down towards the earth. Bring that left hand to the earth. Perhaps we come off the right forearm and step back with the right knee. Circle the hips one way, then the other way. And we're going to come directly onto our backs from here. So turn around, come onto your backs, down to the earth. And you can bring your knees to open for a moment. Hand, left hand on heart, right hand on your lower abdomen. Or you can bring your knees into knock together and feet as wide as the mat. Constructive rest. See what feels great for you. If you open up here in butterfly, Supta Baddha, you can feel how open, how much work you've done at creating space here. So the energy, the pran, the chi can flow. Or you might feel like, oh, I've worked quite hard. I'd like to bring my knees into touch, my feet as wide as the mat. We're not here for long. We're going to move into a twist. Supine twist. Softening, surrendering with each breath. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. Invoking, honoring, gratitude for the matriarchal lineage. The joy, the pain, the vitality, the courage, all that we have inherited. One more breath here in constructive rest or Supta Baddha. Let's extend your left leg long and hug in the right knee. As you exhale, take the left hand to the outside of the right knee and roll onto your left hip and bring that right leg down towards the earth. So you're on your left hip. Your shoulders are connected with the earth. Left hand can rest on the back of that right knee. So your right hand can be alongside your body, or you can reach overhead with it. Yogi's choice. Closing your eyes here. One more full breath here. And then if you're ready, roll back into the center. Hug in that right knee and then release the right leg long. Hug in the left knee. And then let's take the right hand to the outside of the left knee, roll onto your right hip. So you bring your right leg down towards the earth. Left shoulder still moving towards the earth. Left hand alongside your body or left hand overhead. Gaze up at the ceiling, up at the sky. Close your eyes perhaps. Softening here. Like flowers ache for spring, my heart craves my mother more than anything else. When it came to listening, my mother taught me open heart and silence. When it came to speaking, said it is not done with the mouth, but through thought and patience. When it comes to being, said be tender and rough at once, for you must remain vulnerable to truly live, but tough to survive it all. When it came to choosing, said be thankful and willing, for choices were the only thing, the one thing she never had the privilege of making. One more breath here. And then engage your core and roll back to center. Hug in the knee to your heart before extending your leg long, coming into Shavasana. Perhaps you place a bolster or pillow underneath your knees, covering yourself with a blanket, reaching for an eye pillow. Whatever you need to be comfortable here. I shall invite you to stay in Shavasana for at least 5 minutes after class has ended. I'll leave you with the poem again. Like flowers ache for spring, my heart craves my mother more than anything else. When it came to listening, my mother taught me open heart and silence. When it came to speaking, she said it is not done with the mouth, but through thought and patience. When it came to being, said be tender and rough at once, for you must remain vulnerable to truly live, but tough to survive it all. When it came to choosing, said be thankful and willing, for choices were the one thing, the only thing she never had the privilege of making. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. Om Mitrabhyo Namaha Swaha. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.